But I don't understand where it all started. I wonder whether it was briefing against her and Harry when the other royals, William chiefly, panicked that their wedding was making them too popular.
Yeah. And
I really think and it got out of control.
She was loved. Meghan Markle was loved for ages. And then, there was all this speculation that William and Kate didn't.
I think that's possibly what happened.
Let's keep going, because once the smoke began to clear and the public started connecting the dots, what emerged wasn't just shocking. It was deeply clarifying. It forced a reckoning, a complete reassessment of everything we thought we knew about the British monarchy, and more specifically, about William and Kate Middleton. For years, the public narrative had been tightly managed, polished to perfection like the crown jewels. William, the dutiful heir, Kate, the graceful consort-in-waiting, both spotless in the eyes of the British press. But beneath that curated image was a truth too long ignored. William and Kate were not just passive beneficiaries of the smear campaign against Harry and Meghan Sussex. They were in many cases the originators, the architects, the ones who stood to gain the most by tearing Harry and Meghan down. Jealousy doesn't need a microphone to be dangerous. It whispers behind palace doors. It moves quietly through press briefings, anonymous quotes, and photo ops with just enough innocence to deflect suspicion. But make no mistake, it was jealousy that poisoned everything. Meghan didn't walk into the palace meek and deferential. She came in as a global force, articulate, self-made, admired. Her work with the UN, her advocacy for women, her cultural reach, none of it required a royal title. That alone was enough to make William and Kate nervous. But what really set the fire ablaze was that Meghan didn't just exist within the royal sphere, she flourished. Her connection with the public was immediate, electric. And that terrified two people who had spent decades crafting their image through restraint and protocol. William was never prepared to share the stage. Raised to believe he was the main character in the royal saga, he had been groomed for supremacy, not partnership. His entire life was built around the narrative of inevitability, that one day he would wear the crown, and that crown would be respected by default. But then along came his younger brother, one he had always expected to outrank, suddenly eclipsing him with a wife whose natural charisma outshone them both. That wasn't just inconvenient, it was intolerable. And so the briefings began. The leaks, the subtle but consistent narrative designed to diminish Meghan's accomplishments while bolstering William and Kate's empty optics. Every positive step Harry and Meghan took was met with a coordinated media backlash. This wasn't about protecting the crown, it was about protecting William's ego. Let's talk about that ego for a moment. William's temper has become an open secret, whispered about by former staffers, hinted at in press reports, and confirmed by Harry himself in Spare. This is not the cool, controlled air the press likes to present. This is a man who reportedly shouted down his brother, who let rage cloud his judgment, who, in one explosive moment, physically attacked Harry during a disagreement about Meghan. That moment tells us everything we need to know. When confronted with someone who dared to challenge the status quo, who dared to love and protect a woman the system didn't approve of, William didn't reflect. He lashed out. That's not leadership, that's not strength, that's fear disguised as authority. And Kate? Well, Kate is no innocent bystander. The media loves to paint her as graceful, stoic, above the fray. But that image has been carefully cultivated by letting others take the fall. The infamous crying story, where the palace pushed the narrative that Meghan made Kate cry, was not just a lie, but a lie Kate let stand for years. She could have corrected it, could have clarified that the incident was the other way around. But she didn't. Why? Because the lie worked in her favor. It bolstered the image of Kate as the wronged English rose and cast Meghan as the pushy outsider. That's not grace. That's calculated silence. And silence in this context is complicity. It doesn't stop there. When Meghan's Together cookbook raised money for Grenfell survivors, it was met with icy indifference from the palace. When she guest-edited British Vogue to highlight powerful women, she was criticized as being too political. When she launched a podcast series about breaking down misogynistic stereotypes, the press called it self-indulgent. And every single time, the smear campaigns were timed with eerie precision, suspiciously aligned with the Cambridge's need to dominate headlines. These weren't organic controversies. They were manufactured crises, often instigated or enabled by the royal household's own machinery under William and Kate's command. And what were William and Kate doing during all this? Playing it safe, showing up to scripted engagements, waving politely, smiling tightly. There's no risk in ribbon cutting and planting trees. But while Meghan and Harry were launching meaningful mental health initiatives, promoting racial justice, and advocating for humanitarian causes, the Cambridges were hosting garden parties and pretending neutrality was nobility. Their lack of action wasn't just disappointing, it was telling. It showed that preserving their image mattered more than progress, that they would rather uphold an archaic system of hierarchy than join a movement toward real change. The racism Meghan faced should have been met with loud, clear support from her in-laws. It wasn't. Instead, the palace, and by extension William and Kate, chose silence. Or worse, they let the media do their dirty work, knowing full well that the vitriol being directed at Meghan was rooted in misogynoir. Every time they failed to speak up, they reinforced the idea that Meghan was alone in that institution, that she didn't belong, and that's exactly what they wanted, because inclusion meant sharing space. And William and Kate never wanted to share space. When Harry and Meghan made the decision to step back, the media treated it like a betrayal. But it wasn't. It was a survival move. The truth is they were pushed out, isolated, undermined, and betrayed by the very people who should have had their backs. William didn't step up to protect his brother. He protected the institution. He protected the press relationships that benefited him. He protected his place in the hierarchy. And Kate, standing right beside him, did the same. Not once did either of them publicly express empathy or remorse for how Meghan was treated. Not once did they take responsibility for the environment they helped create. And now they want to act as though none of it happened. The palace has moved into revisionist mode, erasing Meghan from history when convenient, claiming unity when it suits the brand. But the truth lingers. Every smear campaign, every racist headline, every missed opportunity to show humanity. It all points back to William and Kate. Their refusal to evolve is not just a personal flaw, it's a failure of leadership, and the monarchy is weaker for it. What's most tragic is that it didn't have to be this way. Harry and Meghan were willing to work with the system, to modernize it, to bring the crown into the 21st century with relevance and empathy. But William and Kate couldn't allow it. They saw popularity as a zero-sum game. If Harry and Meghan were loved, it must mean they were losing. That twisted logic is what ultimately drove the Sussexes out. Not scandal, not rebellion, jealousy, insecurity, fear of being forgotten. And so, what legacy will William and Kate leave? One built on staged appearances and media manipulation? One defined by what they prevented, not what they built? While Meghan and Harry continue to thrive, launching purpose-driven content, raising their children with love and dignity, and living authentically, William and Kate remain trapped in a palace of mirrors, reflections of power with none of the substance, praise without proof, duty without depth. No PR campaign can save them from the truth that's now been unearthed, because people are finally paying attention. They're questioning. They're remembering. They're seeing that behind the photo ops and designer coats, there were two people who let a family member be destroyed to maintain their spotlight. That's not royal, that's ruthless. So when the firm tries once again to resurrect the fairy tale, when we're told Kate is the nation's strength and William is the unshakable future king, remember what they allowed to happen. Remember what they chose to remain silent about. Remember who they sacrificed, because true leadership is not about titles, it's about integrity, and neither William nor Kate showed any when it truly counted. This is what has been revealed, not through opinion, but through action, or lack thereof, through the choices they made, the silences they maintained, and the people they let suffer. William and Kate may hold the titles, but they failed the test of character, and no crown can hide that. Not anymore. The public deserves to know the truth, and now they do. The illusion is shattered, and this time it won't be rebuilt.